welcome to this week's episode of Leadership Soundbites with Michelle and my guest. And Jana's been here before, and it's been more than a minute. And so I'm so excited that you're back again.
My
It's
pleasure.
Jana, thank you, Jana LaFreniere. Here, I said it good before we hit record. Jana's the manager of organizational excellence and workforce development is it Maricopa County?
Yep,
And you've been there since you left Sutter Health.
I have. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jen and I used to work together at Sutter Health and on the improvement team. And I can't tell you how excited I am when I see, because I stay connected with you through maybe in-person events that we've gone to, but more through LinkedIn and just your posts and your comments and everything else. And then I didn't tell you before I hit record, but somebody else reached out to me from Centene that ran into, because everyone's connected to everyone else. Matt Harris, and he goes, I didn't know you knew Jana. I know Jana. Well, Matt and I work together at Centene. So it's hilarious. Just it's almost like the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever that is, but where everybody's connected. So I'm
Degrees
excited.
Michelle Smith.
Yes. So I'm excited to have you back. And you have a quote that you're going to kick us off with in our theme around just organizational resilience and developing that and what it looks like and maybe things that we can do about it. And I think more importantly, the importance of it. So I'm going to kick it off to you and then we'll have a chat. So thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. It's nice to be here. One of my passions and one of my responsibilities as a manager of workforce development for Maricopa County and public health is to make sure the individuals are resilient and have what they need to be successful and thrive in the organization. And I found a quote that is more organizational, but also applies to individuals, which is, I hope, what the theme is going to be today.
Yeah.
This quote is from Julie Zhou, and it says, "A resilient organization is not one that never makes mistakes, but rather one whose mistakes make it stronger over time."
I love it. And what I commented to you and what I think about in that is I go back to change management, right? And ProSci. And one of the visuals that they have there that's so important to realize is for an organization to be anything, right? Resilient, navigate through change, transformation, whatever it may be, we have to bring the individuals along through that. And I think that's what you're talking about too with workforce. So for me, it's like, what does that mean to be able to do that? And more importantly, and I didn't ask this you before, but what does resilient mean to you when you think about that quote and organizations being that way or individuals being that way? What does it mean?
For me, because I left Sutter and I came to Maricopa County 2 months before COVID. So I got here toward the end of January, and then it was March.
Yeah.
And it required the county and working with public health to completely pivot and do everything different. And it wasn't unlike a lot of businesses that had to make changes, but being in the middle of it within public health, we didn't just have to change, we had to create change. We had to be the drivers of change. We had to create new things where they did not exist. And there were major life and death consequences to those decisions. So a resilient organization is one that can anticipate any changes, respond and react appropriately to those, and then are prepared to be able to deal with the next thing coming on. And so resilience is kind of a hot topic right now, and I see this word a lot, and people mostly think that that means bouncing back after a crisis. And there is some truth to that. You need to be able to bounce back. I think about Tigger, and just the bouncing and just always staying up and that kind of image. However, with individuals, we also need to be able to prepare ourselves for any crisis that might require our resilience, and then also be able to actually function through it. So it's not just waiting until it's after, and then what do I need to do to heal and come back, which is what a lot of people think resilience is.
Yeah.
It's actually, how can I prepare for it and have all the tools and the skills that I need So the if and when challenge comes, I'm not gonna, blow over or crumble or, yeah, be completely catastrophized.
You know what, you know, the visual that came to mind for me when you were talking about that is a tsunami almost, right? Is
Mm,
that this thing that comes, wipes us out, we look around and, you know, there's nothing as it was. The thing that comes to mind for me, I think one of the key things in resilience and the stuff that I've come across with coachees and other leaders too that I'm not coaching is that the importance of mindset. So when I think about that, it's like I can have two different people in the same situation. And if one of them is coming from this baseline of positive outlook, and I don't mean unrealistic Susie Sunshine stuff, but I mean just a positive outlook that I'm not looking at things and taking the negative stuff that happens around me, which by the way, it's going to, I don't take it
mhm,
personally, right? I'm not looking at things that, to your point in the quote, that you know, it doesn't mean that we don't make mistakes, but we make mistakes and we view those things as opportunities to learn, right? We're paying attention to those nuances in our wording that we use versus I have to do this versus I have an opportunity to do this, to where you're stepping in with anticipation and curiosity and looking forward to something. That mindset, okay, is so critical to me being able to come back again and go, okay, so that was an interesting outcome,
mhm.
right? Versus, holy crap, I that was devastating, right?
Yes.
So I think about those things and those nuances and the subtle shifts that we can encourage people to make in their wording and their language that's going to help support the stuff that you're talking about.
Yeah, and I'm so glad to hear you talking about that because it's in your example, it is not about the tsunami. It is about how you rebuild, how you experience it, and how you help others around you to experience it. So, after any kind of devastating loss or experience in a business, yes, you're going to have to change. You're going to have to pivot. You're going to have to come back. But in order for the
Mhm,
mindset of the leaders in the organization in general to be able to successfully do that, the individuals in that organization have to um, I think that one of the main factors is hope. People in the
mhm,
organization have to have a sense of hope.
yep,
And that goes along with having a sense of purpose, having a sense of belonging, having that composure and knowing what the triggers are and how to respond appropriately and that flexibility, but really focusing on when people have lost hope,
mhm,
then that's when it's hard to move forward. And that is our responsibility as leaders to ensure that we are providing the kinds of messages that reassure people that things are okay. This is a
mhm,
circumstance and it's uncomfortable, and we've done uncomfortable and hard before.
mhm.
We can do it.
We
This is temporary. We
Yeah.
have hope, and there's going to be a positive outcome at the end of this.
So yes, I'm bobbleheading and agreeing. And so I have to wonder because I know you're in workforce development, right, with your organization. So what do you do? What are you seeing done? What do you recommend that people do in order to start building the capability to be
Mhm.
resilient?
Mhm. Well, the first thing that I like to start with at an organizational level is what we've been successfully able to do, and that is coming out of COVID, we had to redefine what are our values, what are our priorities,
Mhm,
what is the purpose that we serve. And so when we do that as an organization, and then you communicate that well, and it resonates with people and it's
mhm,
meaningful, you've just given them purpose, direction,
mhm.
belonging. And when people have that, they're less likely to be spinning, because there's not the
Yeah,
ambiguity. What am I doing? What is it? Nobody seems to know what they're doing. And there's just chaos, chaos, chaos.
yeah.
If an organization and its leaders are really clear on, I know what our purpose is, I know the value that we provide, and you all are a part of it, and we can't do it without you. So
Mhm,
everybody sees a clear line of sight between what they're doing and the organizational goals, and then
mhm.
also the impact that that has with the customer or the end user.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I wonder as you were talking, I was thinking because we went through COVID. COVID was dramatic change. The sense that I have in hearing through organizations are going through another change, right? Because you had anyone who was considered non-essential, they went remote, right? You lived through that. I lived through that at Sutter Health. I had a team of 16, at the time that
Yeah.
we all went remote, and then we came back. What is it like now? And I don't know what you've done in your county or what your team's done. Are you guys still remote? Are you hybrid? What's going on? Because the the inclination I'm seeing with organizations now is the expectation is that people are coming back on site. Maybe it's not full time, but they've realized humans need to be around other humans, right? And there's some resistance to that happening. Are you experiencing anything like that? Are you seeing anything like that? And if so, what are your thoughts?
Of course, because when people go remote, there's this feeling of disconnect.
Yeah,
It takes effort to reach out, and it means I have to call somebody, bother somebody, ping somebody, instead of somebody walking by, hey, can you show me this? Or hey, what do you think about
yeah,
that? And so it's a real conscious effort. In our organization, we've gone to letting managers decide what is most appropriate for their team.
okay,
So we do have an expectation that people are on site 1 day a week, because we do see the value in that. And even
yeah.
then, you have people that say, why am I coming into the office to sit on a Zoom call anyway? You know, but it's because of those organic connections and things that have to
Yeah,
happen. I think what I also notice with workforce is, because of a lot of turnover, we have a lot of new employees. And
yeah.
I think that that's the case with most organizations now. What is an experience like if you are a remote employee and you have to pick up the phone or bother somebody every time you have a question? I mean, do you remember what it's like as a new employee at a new organization? There's such a difference when somebody's experiencing that first week in person
Mhm.
and has some people around than when they're at a computer and, I'll check in with you at noon.
Yeah.
It's a big difference. So we're talking about how can we really focus on what that first month looks like and support people so that there's less turnover. We really believe that there's going to be a connection between people's first 30 days and
Mhm.
their commitment to the organization and staying.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because if I come into an organization and I never meet people in person, I never establish that connection, I'm not in the same room with them, I'm not stopping by, on the way to something else just to say hi, because when you're at home, you're not on the way to anywhere.
Mhm.
Literally, if you're on your computer, you're on computer, and someone, to your point, intentionally pings someone. So I would imagine that you don't think twice about a better job offer that someone's going to pay you 50 cents more an hour, a dollar more an hour. You'll leave because you don't have the bonding, the loyalty, the connections that historically would have been established
And I think we
to
have to
that.
meet both needs, because one
Yeah.
of the needs of the workforce now is flexibility, choice, the opportunity to work remotely and
Yeah.
have, all the perks and luxuries of that. But also we need to, as an organization, have connection. And so how
Hmm.
can we do both? And that really is one of the biggest challenge, I think, for organizations, leaders, and individuals now, is how do you stay connected in a world where we need connection, but we don't even like to have our cameras on?
Oh my gosh. So what do you do with that? Because for me personally, it's when I come in and I do workshops and everything else, I ask people, hey, can you come on camera? Because there was a LinkedIn course that I watched. It was, I don't know how many years ago, but it talked about, in a virtual world, we all have responsibilities as individual team members to contributing to the energy of the team.
Yeah.
And when you're virtual and remote, you contribute that way through your face and the camera being on. And so if you don't have the camera on, you're not contributing energy, because literally you're a black box with a name on it, or maybe some static picture if someone's done that. And we don't even know that you're paying attention or tracking with us unless there's some reaction or you've said something.
Right. And for in my organization, we have a lot of people, this is their first career. This is their first big
Yeah.
job. And so to some degree, we have a responsibility to teach people why this is important. And so
Mhm.
it kind of goes back for me with connecting people with the purpose, not only of the organization, but of this meeting today. Because we
Mhm,
tend to get very solely focused and, well, this isn't meaningful to me, or they're not talking about something that involves me, so I'm going to multitask
mhm,
and not looking at the purpose of this. It goes beyond the individual themselves. You are part of a bigger piece. It goes to that belonging. You're an integral part of the team. You
mhm.
have contributions that we value and need, and we need to feel connected to you, and we can't do that without you cooperating and turning on your camera, putting down whatever else you're doing, and just trying to focus.
Yeah, because it's interesting, it's distracting. I was at a client meeting the other day, and the frequency of leaders to go in and out on and off camera, right? And just me sitting there, I'm not part of the team per se, because I'm a consultant, but I'm just sitting there thinking, what are you doing? Where did you go? What's happening? Why aren't you on camera? Because in that subliminally, you're letting people know it's okay to do this.
Right.
You know,
And
it's
I
so
think we all do it with good
yeah,
intention. Like, I don't want somebody to see me eating this apple right now. Like,
yeah,
that's messy, and who wants to see that? Or, for a variety of other reasons. But setting some standards, I think it's okay to have expectations and communicate those, and in some certain circumstances have enough flexibility to
yeah.
know that yeah, that can be applied as well.
Yeah. Personally, I love the fact that I can get ready in the morning. I can do more stuff for self-care, improvement and stuff in the morning before I have to be camera ready, right? And my
Yeah.
first thing starts. I like that. I mean, I
Hmm.
like that convenience. Yes, I'm connected to, work more of the time, but like I shared with somebody the other day, I can have a load of laundry going. And when I go to brick and mortar buildings, I can't have a load of laundry going and get
Right.
it to the dryer before it goes moldy, right? Or it
Right.
starts to smell not pretty. And so all that stuff, to your point, is a benefit. And the fact that I'm not spending the gas money, I'm not spending the time in traffic. The downside of that is there's no transition time from work to my other identity of home.
Right.
So there's a plus and minus of that. The
Mhm.
resilient thing I think would be harder to do in a remote workforce when people are more easily influenced by whatever environment that they're sitting in at home.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think that is going to be more of a challenge to maintain a resilient workforce or resilient individuals when they're not necessarily connected to more like-minded, like-thinking people
Mhm.
in a brick and mortar space.
And if we talk about an organization is really just a reflection of the beliefs and behaviors of the people in it,
Mhm.
then it's a good example of why an organization needs to be resilient and agile, and may have a responsibility to the people to change. We can be
Yeah.
very rigid and say we want people in the office and XYZ, but the fact of the matter is, if the organization cannot change, we cannot expect people to accept change. You cannot inflict change on other people if we're not willing to do the same thing and really evaluate what are we doing and why are we doing it, and how
Mhm.
do we know that's the best idea. I mean, we live in a continuous improvement world where the people experiencing the thing should have a say in the thing.
So funny you said that. So, and you flip to this, the organization needs to be able to change for the people to change. And my brain went to, which means that the leaders in the organization need to be open to change because there's the ones that are more times than not influencing or requiring whatever is going on. So the moral of that story, it sounds like, is leaders. If you're a leader in that position, you need to be open to change. You need to be
Mhm.
open to viewing things differently, to evolving maybe the traditional thinking about what air quote it had to be, right? And that in turn will allow the organization, because it's a reflection of those leaders too,
Mhm.
to change, to create a different space, because people are, to your point, I mean, I've heard people that go, if you're going to make me come back full time, I'm leaving.
Mhm.
I mean, and they're serious about it, because this is
Mhm.
not, if COVID had lasted a couple months, people would have thought, oh, that was a nice break. and they would have gone back to whatever habits and routines and stuff that we had. But COVID wasn't a couple months. We blew through year 4, right? So I
Mhm.
mean, we've stepped into year 5 of COVID.
Mhm.
And so it's like it's changed. I mean, it's like solid. So we're not going back to anything that was a memory of before, right?
No.
Um, and so it's one of those things. I agree. Organizations, leaders need to change. So what's a nugget for you if you were to say one or two things around resilience, building resilience, developing an individual's org? What's something that you're like, you know what, this is the thing. If you do nothing else, this is it. What comes to mind?
I think it is ensuring that the people in the organization are aligned with and behind the purpose, vision, and values of the organization, and that that's a good fit.
Yeah,
Because if the organization, let's use that example, believes that people need to be in the office 4 days a week, but the people that we're hiring really, that is not a value to them at all, then you're
yeah,
already in conflict, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities for miscommunication and some missed opportunities, quite frankly, to be able to really make a difference.
yeah,
So I think it is having a really clear purpose and sense of belonging and meaning for the organization and what the leader is about, and then ensuring that the people that we bring on board share those,
yeah.
or we have to change ours.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, what do you do in an organization that all of a sudden the stuff that you just talked about matters more than it's not wallpaper on a wall anymore, right? And if we're
Mhm.
honest with ourselves, all that stuff was almost like, values. And so I remember with exercise we went at Sutter Health, we talked about our values, and the majority of the people couldn't tell you what they were. They couldn't tell you what they
Right.
were. So even though, and I was one of those people, I couldn't tell you what they were. I could tell you that when I read them, I didn't disagree with them,
Hmm.
but I couldn't tell you what they were. So
Right, because there are
I,
so many, it's
yeah.
like they're
Oh my
all
God, there were
values.
like
They have, it's harder to,
7. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
not only
it's
that,
harder to
but
do.
it wasn't this thing that grounded us together, that pulled us together, that there was the core. And so what I'm hearing now, and I don't disagree with you, is that now more than ever, it's important because people are connecting to that, at who we are as a human, right? To the organization, what the path is of the organization's on. And you will create resilience, or the ability to be resilient, because you're aligned to something greater than yourself, right?
Yeah.
Where before, if you go back to, I mean, when I started my career, when my parents were around, organizations have always had mission, vision, values. They have,
Hmm.
but they were literally in the archives. I mean, people could probably blow dust off of them and go, and I don't think anyone could tell you what they were.
Hmm.
Um, because they weren't the thing. They didn't align to it. They weren't brought up at the center of anything. They weren't this is who we are, identity place. This was just a
Right.
requirement. And so
Yeah.
it's an interesting animal though, Jenna, when you think about it, because organizations that haven't brought it front and center, that haven't made the intentional connection to the people in the organization, or even themselves as a leader, what does this mean to you personally?
Hmm.
There's some work to be done, some opportunity, if you will, that I think that if we can start making those intentional connections, then we do have a better chance of weathering. I mean, it's rapid fire change. I look at AI and its role in the world and the organization and processes that are happening, everything else. I mean, change is like breathing now. So in order for people to successfully navigate through change, there needs to be a level of resilience. They need to be open to it.
Absolutely. And there has to be a shared understanding about what the ideal state looks like.
Yeah.
And I want to be on board or I don't, because even if you have shared values, it can be value of the organization that we are connected and have good communication. And it can be yours. And so we can have that as a shared value. What that looks like in reality or in behavior may be different.
Hmm.
To us, this is what connection looks like. To you, maybe it's not that at all, something completely different. So finding where are the commonalities as much as possible. And yeah, really communicating that vision, to your point about how do you make mission and vision like really important to people. What we've found in this last cycle of strategic planning is that if we have good, solid priorities of the department that are broad enough that everybody can contribute to them,
Yeah.
then when we sit down to make performance goals, I can choose how and where I want to contribute. If this is about better communication, then I, as an individual, can take a development course about better communication, interpersonal communication. I can create better meeting agendas. I can communicate more frequently and better. I can have better one-on-one meetings. So when they're relevant enough that everybody can contribute and find some way to really, again, see the path to the priority of the organization.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. If I can see myself and what I can individually do to contribute to where the organization's going, I'm engaged. I'm engaged. Yeah.
Because then it's
So,
me, it has something to do with me, and it's
yeah.
not, a fiscal responsibility. If I'm boots on the ground and in the field doing patient education, doesn't have a lot of meaning.
Yeah.
But I can save some lives,
Yeah.
or think that contribute to
Well,
that.
I know that I'm contributing to awareness of what it takes so that when the moment comes up, I planted enough seeds. I planted enough seeds. Yeah. Thank
And it
you.
still allows people flexibility. So
Yeah.
it's with those priorities that resonate and are meaningful to the individuals in the organization.
Yeah. And those are easier words said than accomplishing. But I think to the point is, it's now. It needs to happen now. Before it didn't matter quite so much. It wasn't the thing, but we're in a different space, a different culture, a different world, different expectations. People are more disconnected than ever and more connected than ever in different ways. So yeah, no, I agree with you. Thank you for this. Thank you for the quote. Thank you for the topic. It's definitely relevant, so I appreciate that. And I love being in the room with you. And just watching how far you guys are coming and the growth that you've gone through and the work that you're doing. So it's cool. I think you put Maricopa County on the map because I did not even know about it before you started working and sharing about the stuff going on. So I appreciate that too.
Yeah.
Anyway, until next time, this has been Leadership Soundbites with Michelle and Jana. And just like, share, subscribe, do the alarm button, you'll get notifications. And just let me know topics and if you're interested in being on. So thank you. Until next time. Goodbye.